It is the News Blitz on 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if I had my way, I would just spend a whole other hour today going on to the Katie Porter story.
And I am not thrown away my shot.
But we have important things to do. Because not only yesterday did we find out that a suspect was arrested when it comes to who started the Palisades fire, which actually is who started the fire 6 days before the Palisades fire. But now that that arrest has been made and the ATF investigation is over, Karen Bass and the city of Los Angeles and LAFD finally released their after-action report. The one that Karen Bass says that the former fire chief, Kristen Crowley, was fired over because she refused to do it. Well, let's see what that after-action report had to say and updates on everything that we've learned in the last 24 hours on the fire. Here is a report from NBC4.
And we begin at 6 tonight with two breaking news updates on the Palisades fire. NBC4 Investigates was the first to tell you about the arrest this morning. And then just a few hours ago, the LA Fire Department released its after-action report on the fire.
Yes, perfect time to release this when everyone's paying attention to the arrest and everyone else is paying attention to Katie Porter.
And I am not thrown away my shot.
Good evening once again, everyone. I'm Colleen Williams.
And I'm Michael Brownlee. That report released here today focuses on the fire department's response in the first 36 hours of that wildfire.
NBC4's Robert Kovacic spoke exclusively with the LAFD's acting chief. He's been digging through that report for the...
This is Ronnie Villanueva, the acting chief, because, again, Karen Bass fired the fire chief at the time.
Acting chief, he's been...
She didn't fire the head of the DWP, but she did fire the fire chief.
Acting chief, he's been digging through that report for the past couple of hours. Joins us live with more on the comments from Ronnie Villanueva. Robert.
Colleen and Michael, and Interim Chief Villanueva was candid and honest with NBC4, and he's looking gun here. You're not going to find it.
There was a blip in the audio, but I had to clean it up. The thing that Michael Brownlee said there was, if you're looking for a smoking gun as to what went wrong when it comes to the Palisades fire, you're not going to find one.
You're not going to find it. Explaining, given the unprecedented conditions, hurricane-like conditions on January 7th, he said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
That's a bold statement. And while most people haven't had a chance to read the after-action report, based on the fact that we have had fires in these regions for many, many, many years, we have had wind in these regions for many, many, many years, I'd love to know if you believe this conclusion from the city of Los Angeles' after-action report.
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
According to this after-action report, commissioned by Karen Bass and the acting head of the LAFD, which it's been 9 months, aren't they going to search for a real replacement? They say it didn't matter what we could have done, nothing would have changed. The devastation was always going to happen. Do you believe that? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The Karen Bass after-action report says policy changes would have changed small things, but this devastation was always going to happen even if we did everything right. What say you? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222.
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost. But
how about if we had more than one road, just Sunset, to get in and out of the Palisades?
But there were definitely mistakes. There were definitely things the LAFD wants to improve on. And there are definitely highlights that the LAFD says things that day did go right. Let's start there.
The hits is that our firefighters were courageous and did a phenomenal job. Everyone that was involved, law enforcement.
Okay, we get it. Brave people doing a very dangerous job on some of the worst days of their lives. Some people's houses were burning down while they were trying to save other people's houses. We get all that. Can we just get to what went wrong here? But of course, according to Karen Bass's appointed head of the LAFD, nothing that we could have done would have changed the outcome.
Everyone that was involved, law enforcement, the fire service, our neighboring departments that surround us, everyone that came to our aid was a success. The firefighters saved 1 out of every 2 homes. What people don't talk about either is that there was 33,000 people that were evacuated. Those are the home runs, the saving of the lives.
How about the fact that people started abandoning their cars on Sunset, and then fire trucks couldn't even get up there because of the lack of coordination that was going on in the city and county of Los Angeles? Nothing?
Those are the home runs, the saving of the lives. Yes, there's some challenges that were in there, things that we need to address, things that we're doing better.
By the way, can we get somebody who is independently minded to do this report? I don't know if the city of Los Angeles should be grading themselves on the fire response for the most destructive wildfire in Los Angeles history. Don't know if they can be unbiased.
Yes, there's some challenges that were in there, things that we need to address, things that we're doing better. One is collaborating more with our fellow or our regional partners, or partners that surround the city, is one. The other is... How
about the fact that the LAFD and the DWP weren't even talking to each other when the LAFD said, hey, there's 1,300 fire hydrants that need to be repaired, and the DWP said, no, there's not.
The other is our notifications, of how we get the notifications out to the public, and our recall policy. That is something that we now have updated, to where if we have something that's this significant, no one's going home. They're going to stay here until we have all of our resources filled.
Okay. Sounds like things are going to go much better this fire season, right?
So
let's go to Maria in Venice. Maria, hello.
Hi, Randy. Hey, you know what? Every year, what typically happens, during that windy time, the windy season, is Malibu catches on fire, and then an ember from Malibu hops over to the Palisades Highlands. Palisades Highlands is a part of the Palisades that is way up high, and it's right next door to Malibu, or it's very, very close. It's the closest part of the Palisades to Malibu. Okay. Well, when there's water, like in the reservoirs, the 2 reservoirs, not just one reservoir, the 2 reservoirs, and when there's water in the fire hydrants, the fire gets put out in the Palisades Highlands, and that's the end of that. Now, Malibu is a different story, but the Palisades, they tamp it down real quick. They're like almost waiting to put the fire out. Now, okay, so the fire didn't start in the Highlands. It started on Lockman, but there wasn't any water. That's what the whole problem is. This whole thing about them saying that there, no matter what we could have done, there would have been the same amount of devastation. Are you kidding me? I mean, how stupid do you think we are? That's just absolutely crazy. I lived, past tense, I lived in the Palisades, left for work that morning, and people were saying, oh, the Palisades is on fire, and I thought to myself, it's just the same old thing. Palisades Highlands got, caught on fire. They're going to put it out. No problem. What's everybody panicking about? And then sure enough, I got an evacuation order on my way home from work. My phone vibrated so much it almost jumped out of my hand. And I went to the nearest Santa Monica hotel with the shirt on my back. And for them to say that, that no matter what, it would have been the same devastation. No, there was no water, Karen Bass. There was no water in the reservoirs, plural, 2 reservoirs empty, and the fire hydrants.
I think I really feel your passion. I appreciate you sharing your story. And I think there's a lot of people like you who were so directly affected by this fire. They're going to have a very hard time believing there's nothing different that the city of Los Angeles could have done. Thank you so much for the call, Maria. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. The LAFD City of Los Angeles After Action Report is finally here for the Palisades fire. And here's the conclusion.
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
Do you believe what's coming out of the City of LA's After Action Report? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222.
So among the challenges and among the changes that the LAFD does want to focus on in this report, they say that there was a delay in communicating evacuation orders and warnings and shelter-in-place notifications to the public. And as a result,
with the county, they just started sending out the wrong evacuation orders. There was, you remember this? There was a fire that was started in the Woodland Hills, Topanga area near the 101 freeway. A very specific area, and the county sent out an emergency alert to everybody in the entire Southern California region.
And as a result, what you were looking...
I was on the air and had to send text to my wife who's like freaking out. Do we need to evacuate? Like, no. That was wrong.
And as a result, what you were looking at...
Nobody got fired over that, by the way.
And as a result, what you were looking at right there, spontaneous evacuations occurred without structured traffic control, causing citizens to block strategic routes to the fire.
The fact that there was nobody directing traffic, figuring out how to make that evacuation. And if there's no way to make Sunset Boulevard efficient with evacuation, then we have to rethink that whole area before we rebuild it. Because certain neighborhoods certainly look like death traps in the middle of an evacuation. I really feel for anybody that lives on Tiger Tail Lane in Brentwood.
The other big change that Chief Villanueva said, if he was on call that day, remember, they pushed him out of retirement after Chief Crowley was fired just after the January 7th fires.
Chief Crowley got fired after she admitted that Karen Bass cut the budget. Let's not forget that detail.
Chief Villanueva was not in place that day, but said if he was chief, they would not have let any firefighters go home after their 8 a.m. shift.
And, of course, the allegation from Crowley was, they didn't have any more engines that could be used because they were all in the repair shop. But I don't think we're going to get a very accurate report from the city of LA. I know there's supposed to be a state report, including looking into what happened with the reservoir, but I don't know. I feel like we need a fully independent investigation here.
They would have been in place, and that is what this report states, that the initial response dispatched to the Palisades incident lacked the appropriate resources, therefore staffing.
And then, of course, the news that we find out yesterday that their fire that became the Palisades fire was originally this fire that was put out, extinguished on January 1st. What we're learning now is apparently it's a fairly common thing that fires can smolder underground in the roots and reactivate with the wind. So if that's true, and I don't see any reason why it's not, we've had firefighters call in and tell us as much, then why didn't we have anybody deployed watching over that very recent burn scar in a very dangerous area?
For the weather conditions typically associated with...
Oh, maybe because, the mayor was in Ghana and nobody was paying attention?
For the weather conditions typically associated with red flag conditions. And given all of that, Colleen and Michael, the firefighters that were called, that were in place, worked upward to 48 hours straight. And they say that combination of fatigue and exhaustion and sleep deprivation severely hindered their ability to make decisions.
Also, they didn't have water.
Making decisions in a fire that was unprecedented, he says, for the city of Los Angeles, that they were facing these conditions. He called it a monster of a fire, and the LAFD did everything they could. There are concerns with
Well, and again, if that is the argument, that, okay, this is just the worst wind event we've ever had, we couldn't use anything in the air, there was no way to make this any better. So what do we do in the future? Is this wind event never going to happen again, or is it going to happen more often? What do we do? Is anybody paying attention to that? Or is it, just throw our hands up, say, don't you worry about it?
There are concerns with Palisades residents about hydrants not working, and he said that there was access to some hydrants that weren't working and that there was an inability to access fire hydrants. As far as the reservoir is concerned, that will be something that the LADWP will have to handle, and whether there were sufficient resources inside of the reservoir.
Which there were not. The two reservoirs were empty.
But he said, keep in mind that this...
And of course, we've heard over and over again about the brush clearance for the city and county-owned land. But no, nothing we could have done.
But he said, keep in mind that this was a fire that they didn't have their best asset, their aerial assault, to be able to fight it because they were grounded due to the conditions. And when it comes to the start of the Palisades fire, remember, it didn't start on the 7th. We now know from this morning's news conference with the FBI and with the federal government and with other agencies that this was a fire that they now confirm started on January 1st, the Lockman incident. But he said as far as the LAFD is concerned, they had that fire, quote, completely suppressed, and it was smoldering in the root system, only able to take off when those winds picked up.
And we knew the wind was coming, so I'm confused. I'm very confused here.
The morning of January 7th. We're live here outside of City Hall East, where the LAFD fire chief is located. I'm Robert Kovacic. Let's go back to you.
So there you go. There's a little of what's in the after action report, but I guess the takeaway is...
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
Do you buy this? If you want to comment on what the after action report commissioned by the city of Los Angeles is saying about the response to the Palisades fire, give us a call, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The after action report is finally out after the arrest was made and the guy that started the fire that led to the Palisades fire. And according to Karen Bass's appointed interim LAFD chief, there was nothing we could do.
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
Do you believe what's coming out of the city of Los Angeles' after action report when it comes to the Palisades fire? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. Getting right to your calls. Next, it's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking your phone calls right now at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Yesterday, the arrest was made in the Palisades fire of the guy who started the fire on New Year's Eve that was smoldering and then became the Palisades fire. Immediately after that, the LAFD and the city of LA finally released their after-action report. And here's the big takeaway from Karen Bass's appointed interim fire chief, Ronnie Villanueva.
He said no matter what changes they possibly could have made, it would not have spared lives lost. It would not have saved homes that were lost.
What do you think? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Scott in Hollywood. Scott, hello.
Hi, Randy. Good to hear from you. Good to hear your voice again.
Howdy.
Regarding the after-action report, which I have not yet read, they're not going to admit anything because it would just make them more susceptible to liability lawsuits. Now, if they say that there's nothing that they could have done, well, this isn't possible because $1 billion is skimmed from all other agencies spent on the homeless project instead of more fire trucks, better personnel, traffic safety, evacuation, better inspection. And then, also, what is the point of having a deputy mayor of public safety if his absence is of no importance? And on top of that, what is the purpose of having a mayor if her absence is of no importance? All agencies have been deprived of necessary money. And in parenthetical to that is the official homeless count. People don't know this. The official homeless count is only down by 1,553 at a cost of $1 billion. Now, if you divide $1 billion by 1,553, that comes out to over $643,000 per less homeless individual, some of which have died, as you know.
Oh, I think the number is actually more than 1,500 that have died of overdose because according to Karen Bass herself, it's now 7 a day.
Well, I think that's the county number, about 2,500 per year, and they don't count homeless versus common overdose deaths of, 16-year-olds in their bedroom. They don't delineate between homeless and non-homeless. And about 70% of the homeless in the county are in Los Angeles. So we've got about 1,000 or so. I mean, no one really knows the exact number, but much of that 1,553 is dead, is deceased people with drugs or just common illness, sores, bed sores, infections that go untreated. So when they say there's nothing they could have done, the whole city is a complete wreck. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I know that. But yes, there are plenty of things that could have been done, and that report has no weight. Let's wait for somebody who's objective to make that conclusion. They have no business claiming that is a conclusory report that everyone should believe.
Well, and if you go back to Kristen Crowley and her getting fired at the beginning of all this, the main issue that Karen Bass had is she said that Kristen Crowley didn't want to sign off on an after-action report. I wonder if at that point the plan was the after-action report would say that everything was her fault.
Oh, good point. And, today the assistant chief of the fire department said that his investigation was that there was no smoldering fire underneath the ground. Well, then who are we to believe? The politically connected, parties of the political machine in Los Angeles, or the ATF and the Forest Service? I think I'd find more credibility in the Forest Service and the ATF.
If there
to make
was no
that determination.
smoldering, why is that crazy guy in jail in Florida right now?
Well, I don't think they're going to be arresting him unless they have, really good proof. I don't think they want egg on their face. The only people with egg on their face is the party machine that runs and ruins this city.
Well, you make a strong point
Anyway, that's
there,
what I
Scott.
wanted to
Always
say.
appreciate talking to you. Thanks for calling in, buddy. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Gail in Chino Hills. Gail, hello.
Hey, how's it going, Randy?
Doing great.
I was just thinking about that action report, and I don't believe it. I think that doesn't sound right to me. And the word that came to my mind in the end of the last segment was negligence on their part. My son Shane is an Eagle Scout, and he knows that fires need to be dead out. I mean, these guys are professionals. What happened there? And now they have this guy that they've arrested. It seems to me that the L.A. fire is somewhat accountable too.
If the smoldering is what really led to the sparking of the most devastating fire, I can imagine the reason they don't want to say anything about it or admit that is because that makes the city of Los Angeles liable for all kinds of lawsuits. So we will find out.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for the call, Gail. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. When we come back, we are going to talk about the smoldering, because there's a new weather term that I've never heard of before, that I'm going to guess you've never heard of before, that is now being used to describe what happened with the fire that took place on January 1st that was put out and then reignited on January 7th. We'll tell you what that's called and this phenomenon next. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Let's get back to the phones. Oh, here we go. Let's go to Armando in L.A. Armando, hello.
Hey, Randy, I'll never let you down. So, you mentioned earlier about your home grill, infrared, right?
That's right. My Solaire. I love it. I'm making steak on it tomorrow.
All right. So don't city helicopters, county fire department, or police helicopters have infrared technology to zoom down and pick up, like criminals that are running around or climbing trees or backyards in the middle of the night?
I would think so. I don't know if they specifically have that, but they probably should.
They pick up your body temperature. So that fire in the Pacific Palisades, how come no one flew by there and just focused on that ground to see how hot it was? You could see the heat because the heat was smoldering for how long? 2-3 days, a week? No one flew over there and checked it out.
I think that's a really strong point.
Technology. Yeah. So the guy that set the fire, the arsonist, and the fire department said it was a put out, and everybody walked away, but no one went back and looked at it. So what do they tell you? What does the Boy Scouts teach you? What does Smokey the Bear tell you? Stir the flames, push them out, check them before you leave, come back and make sure it's out. Why didn't the fire department do that?
I think that's a really good question, and I don't think the after-action report says anything about this. Thanks so much for the call, Armando. Appreciate it. And the thing that I have to think about, because you talk about resources, and every department has limited resources. We know that the fire department has limited resources. We also know that the LAFD is in a unique situation where they have to respond to so many calls every single day of fires at homeless encampments. And I got to imagine that stretches resources very thin. Is that the reason there wasn't a truck on site right outside of this burn scar when we knew it was going to be windy? I don't know. But I don't think the after action report says anything about that or about the fact that the fire department is stretched incredibly thin because Karen Bass has decided that it's okay for 90% of the homeless to stay on the streets lighting fires, as long as she puts the other 10% in a motel. Hey, look at this, everyone. 790 KABC welcomes Jagged Edge to the Toyota Arena on November 6th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. When we come back, you're going to hear the brand new weather term they're using to describe this fire. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. All right, let's all hear together about zombie fires.
And Robert, we have more on that right now. We continue our breaking news coverage with a step towards justice today for thousands of families in Pacific Palisades.
That's right. Federal investigators announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderneck. He was arrested in Central Florida yesterday, made his first court appearance in Orlando this afternoon.
Investigators say he started the Lockman fire on New Year's Day while he was working as an Uber driver in the area.
Which is still really weird, because apparently he lived in a really fancy house. We're not sure what's going on with this kid. Also, apparently he threatened to light his sister's house on fire.
That fire would later erupt into the deadly Palisades fire 6 days later. On January 7th, Rinderneck, the fire started on January 7th. Rinderneck, as we've heard, used to live in the Palisades.
Well, tonight and all new at 6, we're hearing exclusively from businessman Rick Caruso, a leading critic, as you know, of Mayor Karen Bass over the fire.
NBC4's Conan Nolan joins us now in studio with that part of our coverage. Conan.
Yeah, well, so it is clear the fire that consumed the Palisades actually started days earlier as a brush fire that fire crews had extinguished. But while the flame on the surface was no longer apparent, there was still combustion taking place below the surface. The Palisades, it appears, was consumed by a so-called zombie fire.
You've heard of bomb cyclones. Get ready for zombie fires.
In 2020, what was called the...
It is October.
In 2020, what was called the complex fire along the Northern California coast. 86,000 acres, 1,500 buildings destroyed. It took weeks to extinguish. But then well into the next year, in the burn scar, the fire reemerged in a redwood grove, apparently similar to the one that started on New Year's Day in the Santa Monica Mountains. And then, according to officials, after fire crews put out the flames, reignited days later.
Apparently, this is also what happened with the fire in the Oakland Hills in 1989. Like, apparently this is very common, so shouldn't we be prepared for it?
Resulting in the most devastating natural disaster in the history of Los Angeles. Governor Gavin Newsom.
What could be done as it relates to any lessons learned in that respect? We saw similar things. We've seen a lot of fire starts over the years. Oakland Hills, there were some similar versions of this.
Zombie fires take place when the flames are extinguished, but the original fire has spread underground. A slow burn continues below the surface in a low oxygen environment, but amidst the presence of combustible material. It can even...
Like, what do we do? Do you got to get an excavator out there? Do you got to start taking and digging up this fire to put it out? I don't know. I'm not an expert here.
It can even snow, and the subsurface smoldering continues, only to reignite in dry months when high winds and oxygen bring the fire back to life. Mayor Karen Bass earlier today.
Should this have been a place where crews were pre-positioned, knowing that this fire started just a week before?
Well, I
don't know. I was in Ghana.
Well, I think that that's something that has to be looked at. And where were the crews? We want to make sure that
shouldn't this have been in this after action report? Nah.
We want to make sure that we are able to prevent anything like this from happening again.
The mayor's critic and opponent.
By the way, as we're getting into fire season, I have no confidence that the people that were in charge 9 months ago are any better at their jobs now.
The mayor's critic and opponent from the last election, businessman Rick Caruso, in an interview with NBC4, says what has been proven is that the Palisades fire was avoidable.
Will you announce if you're running or not already, buddy? Come on. Don't keep us waiting.
We had a fire, the week ahead of time, and then the wind warnings came out that everybody saw. And so the easy thing, the reasonable thing, the smart thing to do is you would pre-deploy a fire truck to that area, knowing that there could be a potential that it could reignite. And if a fire truck had been stationed there when the wind started, it would have been easily put out.
By the way, this is a guy who has a shopping center in the Palisades, and when he found out it was going to be windy, he pre-deployed his own private fire force. So his properties got protected. In fact, that whole block got protected.
Not sure if it's that easy. Hindsight is 20/20 vision. And in some zombie fires, the next fire that pops up as a result of the wind gusts and the return of oxygen sometimes is far away from where the original burn scar was. You
never know when a zombie fire is going to pop up. This term is really bizarre.
They're that insidious, and we've known about them for some time. They're part of fire behavior, but that is a question. If you know this is a possibility and you know you're going to have record-breaking wind gusts, maybe that's a place you put a rig. Just saying.
All right.
Conan Nolan, a legend in NBC reporting.
Just saying.
Has zero bleeps to give at some point. So there's what we know today. Will we know more tomorrow? We haven't even gotten to what's going on with the Eden fire and the fact that SoCal Edison, who at this point we're fairly sure started that fire, is now trying to lowball the fire victims into taking a settlement that is less than the victims of the campfire got from PG&E, along with the fact that they don't want to pay for the chemical testing and making sure it's still safe to rebuild. Apparently 70% of the homes that were destroyed or severely damaged have no pathway right now to being rebuilt. It's not looking great. And we've been lucky, I guess, that we haven't had any other big fires in this area since then. But the windy season's upon us. It's going to get dry again. These things are going to happen. And it doesn't seem like we've learned a whole lot of lessons. Not in LA City, not in LA County, not in the state of California. Only time will tell. As the more we learn about zombie fires, maybe we will figure out ways to do something about it. But there is the latest on everything that's related to the fires. And I felt like that was very important that we cover that because it is so important, which is why I chose to do that instead of spending another hour playing this drop.
And I am not thrown away my shot.
I've been filling in for Johnny all week, and if you've missed any of those hours, because it's been a heck of a lot of fun, you can download the podcast. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Highly recommend Tuesdays, 12 o'clock hour. Katie Porter threatens to walk out of a local TV interview. I may have broken that story. I mean, Julie Watts of CBS Sacramento did the interview. They posted it on YouTube, but nobody knew about it until I talked about it and told people where the video was. Also, today's 12 o'clock hour. That's a good time too. And if you want to hear a continuation of the conversation I was having the other day about copper wire theft, I actually interviewed LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman, and he convinced me that they are looking at charging felonies for the people involved with that. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.